This was a teacher who was very open about her process. And this is a district, Orange in Connecticut, another good district for you to reach out to if you want a network of schools who've been going through this process. I encourage you to do that. This is a video of the children. A couple of things I want you to notice about the video. You're going to see children. This is one of the earliest times. So maybe they've done self-navigation maybe 2 weeks. Okay. They all have a little timer. So part of the self-navigation is this teacher gave them all little timers and they set 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and that's how long they should be practicing this learning target. And then when it's done, they need to move on to another one or choose to continue practicing it. How are we doing? So you see that self-regulation. You're also going to see that the kids have to figure out how to even get into the material. And they can't just go to the teacher and say, teacher, help me get in here, right? So they have to help each other. They have to use the tools. There's a little binder to the left of the child that's the self-navigation tool. So that you're going to see the camera goes over there and tries to show that to you. And last but not least, what I want you looking for is scaffolding in the room that the teacher pre-set up, knowing what learning strategies were going on, so that the children had access to tools that were going to help them with it. So again, they don't need to ask the teacher. Let's see if this video is going to work after all that hype, right? Maybe I should have made sure it worked before I went into the hype. Let's try and open it up. Are you able to see it?
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Can you tell me what you're going to be working on?
We're going to be working on Khan Academy.
Oh, what are you going to be doing on Khan
We're
Academy?
going to
What are you going to do on Khan Academy?
So I just want to pause here. The actual teacher who set this all up is on the floor with a small group on the outside. The person who's talking and doing the videoing is a district level curriculum coordinator who was coming in to see what on earth was going on. Okay, is everyone with me on that? So just so we know who the players are, these kids don't know this woman very well, and she's sitting here like videotaping everything they do, which also shows you what happens when kids are self-navigating and how they're feeling. But see how the teacher over on the back there is working with a small group, and that's exactly what self-navigation looks like in the classroom. Let's keep going.
Gonna tell time.
You're going to learn how to tell time? Nice.
I do that. Click login. Wait, look at it. This is what I want. Wait, oh, click login. Click login. Okay, just then you press continue. Yeah, continue. Oh, there. The first assignment, click on first assignment. Wait, I can't see it. Telling time, wait, start. Do I press start? Yeah, I think I pressed start. You press F. I'm just going to press go. Press the thing. I think because I think we go in order. Press start. I'm learning how to tell time.
And what resource are you using to learn how to tell time?
I'm using that clock over there because this one doesn't have the numbers on the outside, so I know what.
So you're using the clock over there as a resource. Wow. How did the video help or the clock help you?
I think the clock and the video.
Okay, so I'm going to pause there, but what are some of the things you noticed? Again, this is one of the first times they're working with this. They've never logged on to this. They had no idea what was going on. And in the past, I might have walked to the kids all the way through it saying, okay, kids, now click this. Now we're going to wait till everyone's clicked this. Now everyone go here. But by creating a culture of self-navigation, I set them up with the learning strategy, the learning targets with the choices. They had a video, they had the website and the clock. Teach yourself how to learn time, like how to tell time. They knew what they had to do, and then they just need to figure out how to do it. And they were very comfortable helping each other. So before I go into the teacher actually giving them the lesson before that, teaching them how to self-navigate, which will be the next piece, any observations, thoughts? Is it helpful to see the kids wrestling through it? That's one of those. Uh-oh.
It didn't look like they wrestled too much though. It looked fairly fluid and smooth. If they didn't know, they asked a friend, and the friend had the answer.
Yeah, if I gotta tell, the younger ones are much faster at getting to self-navigation very easily and staying on task than my older ones. Isn't that funny? My older ones go off task very quick. They min-max it very quick because they're in compliance. They're just trying to get it done. All right, I did it. I did everything you asked me to do. And then they go do their own things that they want to do. That's not self-regulating. That's compliance and then moving on. The kids were very happy to stay on task. What else do we, I think I accidentally closed my browser, so it's going to take me a second.
Corey, how dependent are the students and the teachers on technology for this? A fair bit, or can there be a balance of technology and setting up the room in other ways? You know, because looking at your slides the other day and today, there is, I mean, the children are still looking at the screen to do this.
For that particular piece, it seemed like it had the screen. I gotta tell you, it's really whatever you want to set up. Sometimes they watch a 2-minute video on the screen, but then they're supposed to leave the screen and then go outside or build something or do an activity or do, right? There's things, especially with the options in math where you want them modeling or designing something or writing. There's a lot of pieces where they don't need to be at a screen. But you do like to have the technology is very useful for organizing it. So Schoology looked like it had some very nice features that I would want to keep using, especially that chat feature and things that you have available. Very often they will end up in a different, using a combination, right? Some kind of combination of those pieces. But I have seen this work perfectly well with, as you saw, binders and then concrete activities and resources that have nothing to do with technology. I've seen that work. So I don't want to imply that there's any kind of forced relationship. So I'm going right into these learning plans only because I was on autopilot. Did you see that? I could have gone into your folder, but I went over here. And we're going to go into those sites. I want to show you her teaching these little ones what self-navigation is all about. So we can see how the students are responding to the language of self-navigation and how overtly we do teach it to them.
We all have a learning plan. We're working on mastering our subtraction facts in 3 seconds each. We're not all in the same place right now. We're working on self-regulation. Who can remind me what self-regulation means? Brian.
To check your work.
Your check is correct. That's you're keeping track of what you're doing, how long you're doing something, if you're focused on following a direction.
Sorry about that.
Brian.
To check your work.
Your check is correct. That's you're keeping track of what you're doing, how long you're doing something, if you're focused on following the directions, if you're using the strategies in your learning plan. You are regulating. You are in control of what you choose to do. First, next, then, and finally. You're self-regulating. Good. Self-navigation. We talked about these learning plans being helpful for self-navigation. Okay? Who wants to help me with the word self-navigation and what it means? Thank you, Silas. Yes, but navigate, remember we talked about the ship and the sailor on a ship? So when we navigate, right, we use tools to help us know which way we're going, right? And the strategies that are in your learning plans for subtraction fluency are helping you to self-navigate. Thank you, Silas. And finally, self-motivation. Okay? I used an example with a couple of groups this morning to talk about what it means to be self-motivated. Okay? Chelsea, you want to help us out with that? Self-motivation.
Like your time.
Well, you are working the whole time if you're motivated. That's true. Who else wants to add on to that? Being self-motivated. Yes, Naya.
Not keeping track.
You are keeping track. If you're motivated, you're certainly keeping track of what you're doing. Stephen?
You keep going.
You want to keep going on your own. And I used a really good example this morning. Stephen, could I have the ball? Thank you. Ryan came to me yesterday and he said, sorry, Ryan, you did such a great job. Is it okay if I share? Yeah. Okay. He said, Toli, last night I went home and I went on typing.com. And I said, oh my goodness, that's awesome. But guess what? I didn't tell Ryan he had to do that. Ryan was so excited, Logan, to go on typing.com that he chose to do that on his own. He was self-motivated. Boys and girls, these learning plans are going to help you to self-regulate, self-navigate, and be self-motivated. So would you open them up right now so we can just review?
So that's just an example of an initial, they're working through the language, they're working through the steps, teaching all the pieces. All that has to be done. It's not something that we just throw them out there and then suddenly the kids follow them along and make them work. And they need to learn the language and why they're doing it. So I will say they even went so far as to really go into the brain science, right, of what's going on here and why the kids would be doing that. Kids can learn that and understand that, and it can help them make better decisions.